Hello everyone. So today here at the Little Rock Air Force Base Airman Offender Readiness Center, I'm Mike Rudisell, I'm the employment coordinator here. And this is another one of our small training sessions that we're starting to video and put out on our Facebook page for all the units to review. Now today we're going to be going over the federal resume writing. Normally this is a 2-hour class, so I encourage you to come to the 2-hour class because we spend the first hour learning how to manipulate and navigate USA Jobs. We spend the second hour teaching you how to take a particular job announcement and break it down to set it up to free write your resume to get you a best qualified rating, to make you the best qualified as possible. Today's version is just going to be the resume writing. So a lot of the manipulation of USA Jobs and using Resume Builder and things like that, we'll barely get into that at all. So if you don't have any experience or you don't have a USA Jobs account, I would encourage you to give us a call Monday through Friday, 0730 to 4:30, 501-987-2667, and schedule a one-on-one federal resume appointment. We can do it for about an hour, and then hopefully, eventually, when this COVID-19 gets squared away, we can get back to doing a 2-hour class. We can also do a federal resume review for you. If you have a resume that you've already done and you'd like to review against a job, again, give us a call. Let us get your email address, and you can send us that information, and we'll make sure we look at it. Please, 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 if you're wanting a federal resume review done and the job closes out in 24 hours, realize that it normally takes us 2 days after we get the information to conduct a review, initial review, and send it back to you. We will do our very best to do due diligence if the job closes out on the same day, but again, it's highly unlikely that you send us a job that morning and we get it back to you that night. So on behalf of the men and women here at the AFRC, let's go ahead and get started on federal resume writing. So let's talk about some of the basics here. The key thing when we look at federal resume writing, there are a myriad of different ways to write a federal resume, as there are templates on the planet. So again, my way is not solely the right way. Some individuals like to write it a little differently. What I can tell you is that we've had over 200 hires using this method. I've gotten emails back from other individuals that have said, hey, I used the process that you taught me. It really helped me to get in here. We've had 4 counselors plus myself that have used the same process to get hired within the federal system. So again, we know it works. You use what's best for you. So what we want to do first is specify how your experience or education can qualify you for the announcement that you're looking at. Because when it comes to getting hired into a GS or WG position on USA Jobs, you can either qualify based on your education and experience, or experience alone. So it asks for a 4-year degree in a public administration or business administration, but you don't have a bachelor's. Maybe you have an associate's as a tech admin, whatever your CCF degree is. So that's a 2-year degree, plus you've got 2 to 4 years of experience. That's your education and experience to qualify for the 4-year bachelor. Or maybe you've been at the CSS or the flight office, or you've been a section chief or a flight chief for 4 to 6 years. You're going to qualify based on your experience of business administration or public administration, right? Because you deal with a myriad, when it comes to public administration, a myriad of different things similar to a PA. All right, we're talking about discipline, we're talking about promotions, we're talking about recognition, we're talking about development and training. All those things are similar in the way in which it is gathering that data. So again, we want to make sure that your information can pass the OPM audit. And you'll see right here, I've got a little asterisk next to OPM. That stands for Office of Personnel Management. Now OPM is the governing body. It's kind of like the judicial branch of the government. The OPM is the one that looks at all federal hiring and creates an outline of what each series and sub-series to federal employment requires. So it's a basic job announcement. Again, when we need a position here at Little Rock Field, we contact the Civilian Personnel Office on base. The HR there will then contact AFPC HR, who in turn eventually will look over the record to get that job outline from OPM, the Office of Personnel Management. Now here at Little Rock, just like in the military, you can add to, but you can never take away from the rec. So once you have the basic outline of the job announcement, that's what you have to make sure that you have in there. But you can add some things that are particular for the area of your service or your office. Here at Little Rock, we may have more retirees, so we may want more retiree experience. Out on the West Coast, they may want more industrial development experience. Again, so it can vary a little bit. That's why we tell you not to build one resume and target that for every job announcement. Because even if you're applying for a position here at the AFRC, another AFRC may have slightly different things added to their work center based on what their key focus is. So again, make sure that your resume is a living, breathing document. Let's continue on. Next, tell what you have done in relation to the position. We know that as military members and as military spouses that we have done a plethora of great things. Saved the president, put out fire on an airplane, been in austere conditions, been shot at, moved 6 times within a year, and your service member has been deployed and you've been responsible for all the packing and unpacking and TMO, the logistics of it, got it, totally. And that's awesome. But if it has nothing to do with the job that you're applying for, you might as well be telling them that you worked at Walt Disney or that you've been to the moon. It's unrelatable. We want to make sure that we're focusing on how we meet the qualifications and requirements of the job. That's why we want your document to be a living, breathing thing. Ideally, we look at 3 to 6 pages. There are some folks that say, hey, more is better. If you can do a 20-page resume, do a 20-page resume. Well, that may be good for them. I'm just telling you from the HR folks that I've talked to and the training that I have gotten, 3 to 6 pages is ideally what we're looking for. If you can't tell me that in 3 to 6, then basically what you're doing is what we call the spaghetti concept. I'm going to put my entire 23-year career on this plate and I'm going to throw it against the wall, and whatever sticks, that's what you needed. All the rest of it is just a waste of time. There are very few human beings that want to sit down and look at a 20-page resume. Okay? So ideally 3 to 6 pages. More is acceptable. It's your resume. Do it how you want to do it. Ideally, that's what we're looking at. Chronologically, going back 8 to 10 years, ideally is what we want to look at, especially if you're in the position of IT or the medical or education, because anything older than 10 years is antiquated. So again, we want to make sure, there's nothing wrong with having direct experience that was 15 years ago that you're going to bring them up saying, hey, I have basic knowledge, but I know that things have changed in IT. Make sure that you're prepared for that. Now, if the job announcement says the entire work history, then you're going to have to go all the way back to when you were an airman, or all the way back to your first job. Because again, they want your entire work history. You can't have up to 5 resumes posted in USA Jobs. So when you get to USA Jobs, you create your user ID account. You're allowed to create 3 and upload 2 or create 5. I encourage you to create 5, and I'll tell you why. This one time at band camp, no, not really, but this one time when I was recovering from my knee replacement back in 2011, and I was sitting there filling out 20 or so job announcements a week on that USA Jobs, trying to find out what I was going to do with my next career since I had lost my job with Purina Dog Chow. I came upon a job at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma at the depot there for repairing and replacement of bladder fuel cells. Now, I taught tech school for 4 years. I've taught over 144 students on how to hot and cold patch and repair 4 main types of bladder cells from Firestone and Goodyear for helicopters, bombers, fighters, cargo aircraft. So again, there's not going to be more people qualified for me, more than me for that job. But I went ahead and created it in Word, and I uploaded in USA Jobs, and I got back a not qualified application. Something wrong with that. So I went back to the job announcement, and there was a contact name and a number of who was responsible for that job announcement, and I finally worked it all the way down to the young lady at HR there at Tinker, and I asked her about why I was disqualified, especially looking at my background. And the first thing she said to me was, did you look at your resume? And I said, well, I mean, I built it in my computer and then I uploaded it from Word, but I didn't look at it after I had applied for the job. She said, well, I tell you what, go back and look at your resume and then give me a call back if you have more questions. Ding! Probably your inside filter is telling you there must have been a problem with this resume. So I go back to USA Jobs, I open my resume, and I guess I had a corrupted file on my computer, but all the words and everything were all shifted, and it was all jinkied up to where it was difficult to even, I might as well have done it in wingdings. You had a better shot at understanding what it was, right? So from that point on, I never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, never build in Word and then upload it directly to USA Jobs. Because what I realized, and what I was later told by some folks that came down from USA Jobs at Camp Robbie when I worked there and taught us how to manipulate and create at Best Qualified Resume, they told me that if you build it in Resume Builder, it minimizes the mistakes or issues that you're going to have. When somebody goes to review your resume, it's a lot easier because it's already formatted in USA Jobs. There's not going to be much problem with it. So from that point on, always did it in USA Jobs. You do what you want to do. Use keywords and concepts from the announcement to make sure that you're rewording them in a manner that they show up on your resume. So if they use an automated scanning system, or when an individual is looking through there, they're finding your keywords, right? Knowledge is just that. It means knowledge. Ability means you have to show that you've done it. Okay, so those are the two things. If it says you have knowledge in office equipment, you don't have to cite where you've operated 15 different types of office equipment. You just have to list on there that you have an understanding of how to use office equipment. Excuse me. So make sure you follow all the directions, because as you start to read through the job announcement, there are some very specific directions. Sometimes under the need to know information, they'll have a paragraph in there that tells you that they want the dates listed on your resume as day, month, year, or month and year. If they tell you they want it a specific way and you fail to do it, it's a disqualifying factor. You didn't follow the directions. If they ask you if you're qualifying based on education experience, or experience, make sure that whatever you're uploading to support it supports that. If I'm doing just education, then I only want to upload my resume and a copy of my college transcripts. If I'm going based on just experience and I upload my college transcripts, I'm going to be disqualified because I gave them information to review that is not applicable to my qualification. Don't say I'm qualifying based on experience and then upload your degree. Or if you're trying to qualify under a bachelor's degree but you have a master's degree, don't put your bachelor's and your master's transcript on there. Okay? Only put on there what you're telling them that you're qualifying yourself under. Because again, let the rest of that come out in the interview. I get it. You made a master's degree. It's awesome. It's amazing that you've gone that far and you've done that much. But again, only go what they're asking for. Here's some do's and don'ts for you. Try to quantify how much, how many, how often, using what types of tools or software. Again, it's great that you say, I supervise individuals, but if somebody equally qualified to me says that they supervise 300, which one of us is already telling the human being that's reviewing it that I've had 300 different types of ethnicity, social, cultural, and educational backgrounds that I've had to deal with? The person that quantified the data. Validate your experience with dollars, numbers, percents. Those are awesome. List out each job, do a 2 to 4 line small paragraph. We want to get away from action, impact, result bullets that we're always used to writing. Keystone maintainer, revamped 142 CTK, estimated value $3.2 million, lauded by leadership. That's exceptional. Love it on a bullet, on a 1206. In a resume, not so much. Think of it always that the person that's reviewing your resume has no military experience at all, because what I just said totally means nothing to them. Went over their head. Okay? So make sure that we switch some things over. We don't call it subordinates. Civilians don't like the word subordinate. They have a different understanding of that word. So you want to say employees. Nothing wrong with that. Use the announcement as a cheat sheet. That's huge, because we don't want to have anything on this resume that is not pertinent to the position. Don't be vague. Supervised others. Okay, so others, is that one other person? Is that 2 other people? Is that 2,000 people? How many people is that? Don't overstate your experience. I know all the requirements for running an office. Highly unlikely. Okay? Because there are going to be some circumstances that may not have come up in your office, especially depending on the size of your office, or what your requirements are, or your duties are within the office. So don't overstate your experience. Don't say that you're a facility manager for a facility valued at $1.8 billion, unless that's assigned to a job experience of working at NASA. There's a high probability of that happening. Don't copy and paste directly from the job announcement. That's the last thing that an employer wants to see, is that when you go to write under your experience, the first thing you have in there is the same thing that they put on the job announcement. Reword it using the keywords and concepts in your own words. So if they're asking for knowledge of assessments, then I want to say that I have experience in interviewing and counseling to find trends, issues, or problems with the military public. Right? There's a lot of different words for assessment. So make sure you're looking at those things. Thesaurus is going to be your best friend. List things not applicable to the position. Again, it's great that you have an air medal. It's great that you've got a lot of great recognition in your military service. But if it's not related to the job, all it's telling the person looking at the resume is, I can't let go of my military service. I'm not ready to transition. That's what you're telling them by putting things in there that are not applicable to what they're looking for. Okay? Shotgun resumes, as I said before, having one resume and saying that, oh, I'm good to go. This is Mike Rudisill's 23-year career on this resume. It's going to be great for everything that I apply for. They're going to pick through it. I'm going to make the HR work for me. Because you know what, HR? You don't work for the company. You work for me. You look through my resume and you find what you're looking for. Yeah, that's going to go straight to the circle file. Okay? So make sure that you have it set up so it's easy for them to see with lead-ins and keywords, that they can find it, go to what's important to them, and review it. That shotgun resume, it's like a shotgun to the face, all right? It becomes very difficult. One thing we should be concerned with, especially if you're a military member and you're looking to go into federal service, just like in the Army and the Air Force, you have an AFSC and an MOS. We as federal servants also have a federal occupation code. Now, I don't know about you, but when I got to retire, an old chief, Chief Grubbs, came to me and said, Rudy, you know what you got to do? You're a master sergeant. You got to get on that USA job. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread and butter. There's all kinds of jobs out there for you. I said, okay, Chief, I'll get on that. So I went into USA Jobs. I went into the what, and I typed Fuel Systems Repair Mechanic, Little Rock, Arkansas. 0. Took away Arkansas, left Fuel Systems Repair Mechanic. 0 jobs. Went back and put Aircraft Mechanic, Little Rock, Arkansas. 0 jobs. I was like, all right, this must be a Chief's joke, because no matter what I try to put in here, I'm not finding